from the Boston Herald. He is now going to jump on with us. Doug, how are you? Great to see you, man. How you been? Everything you getting ready for the draft?
I am. It can't come quickly enough at this point. It's been a it's been a long journey since the combine, but I'm excited that it's finally here. Good to see you guys.
Good
Good to
seeing
see
you
you.
too, Doug. A little more laid back without Bill Belichick out there, or not really?
It certainly is. Hold on, let me get my shot right so I don't have a bunch of junk in my background. Yes, things are much more laid back without Bill Belichick around. We noticed that right from the start at the combine when scouts and coaches and everyone were actually kind of out and about rather than hiding away in their hotel rooms. And it was kind of the same thing at the NFL annual meeting. Shortly after Gerard Mayo was hired and all the new assistant coaches were hired, they had kind of a non-alcoholic happy hour with all of the media so that the media and the new coaches and everything could get to know each other. These are all things that would have never happened when Bill Belichick was head coach. So I've said this a lot. We'll see if it all works. We'll see if this all goes well. We'll see if this is the best approach. But for the media, it's certainly been a lot more welcoming with Gerard Mayo as head coach and Elliot Wolf as the de facto GM.
Fernando, if you don't mind me asking a couple more questions,
Yeah.
I'll let
Go
you
ahead.
do your thing. But you mentioned Gerard Mayo. How's that been going? Because you obviously heard about Robert Kraft saying we like this guy. He was going to leave a couple of times, but they gave him more money as an assistant coach. They try to keep him. Obviously, the roles have always shifted. Because they wanted him for a reason. Like, what have you seen from Gerard Mayo so far?
Yeah, I mean, players have all raved about him that we've talked to so far. Coaches have raved about him. Definitely a really, warm, opening guy. He draws people in. He's got a lot of charisma. And he was great as a defensive coach with the Patriots. He was a co-linebackers coach with Steve Belichick, and they kind of shared those defensive coordinator duties with Bill Belichick. So Steve Belichick was calling plays. Bill Belichick obviously had his hand on a lot of things, but Gerard Mayo did a lot of the other behind the scenes defensive coordinator duties since he came on staff in 2019. So I don't know. I mean, he's going to have to learn on the fly. It's a big jump to go from being a co-linebackers coach slash, 1/3 of a de facto defensive coordinator to being a head coach. But he's got a lot of smart people around him. He's got at least one guy on staff, Ben McAdoo, who has former head coaching experience. I'm not sure how good the Patriots will actually be this season based on the talent on their roster. So I'm not sure if this year is going to be the best indication of his future success. But people certainly like him so far, and we'll just kind of have to see how it goes. He's been dealt kind of a rough hand, like I said, with the roster, but they're building it up. We'll see how they do in the draft, how much that can improve things. But I don't know. I'm optimistic about it, but probably not for this season.
Go ahead,
Go
Fernando.
ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, one more to get the draft coverage started, and obviously Mayo is gonna be judged off of what they do at quarterback. I'll ask you the question right now, but if they get a quarterback in draft one number 3, it's all about progress. Is it a good rookie year? Obviously, it went poorly for Bryce Young. The coach went out in 9 games. CJ Stroud did well in Houston. We are looking at D'Amico Ryan like he's a new hot shot coach coming up in the rankings there. So, is that the way to go? Getting a quarterback, obviously, like you mentioned, you don't know they're going to be good at all because they don't have a good roster. What if they go Marvin Harrison Jr.? You can't pass it on Marvin Harrison Jr., or could you for a Drake May or JJ McCarthy? So it's starting to line up, Doug, as Caleb Williams number 1, Jaden Daniels number 2. So maybe the draft really gets started with the Patriots at number 3. How do you kind of see that playing out?
I currently see them staying put at 3 and drafting a quarterback. That was, it's Tuesday at 7:10 p.m. That was the late, or Eastern time at least. That was the latest I was hearing last night. I was talking to someone who said that they'd be surprised and that they didn't anticipate there being a trade. Of course, that could still change in the next 2 days here, but that's the current expectation that they will stick at 3, that they will take a quarterback. But at the same time, I have heard that there's people within the organization pretty high up who are supportive of a trade, who would be supportive of acquiring more assets, of getting that bag that Gerard Mayo has said, getting a great deal in place for a trade. I think that they need to be knocked out of their socks with whatever trade offer that comes. I don't think that that's happened yet at this point. I'm not sure if it will come. I mean, teams obviously would like to move up. There's a lot of quarterbacks who are appealing in this draft, but the Patriots need one too. So right now, I would expect it to be Drake May. The tough thing is that with the Vikings being kind of the top trade candidate, moving down to 11 is so far. Like at that point, you're not guaranteeing yourself one of the top 4 quarterbacks. You're not guaranteeing yourself one of the top 3 wide receivers, and you're not guaranteeing yourself one of the top 3 offensive tackles. So like if you're sitting there at number 11 and your only choice is between, Brock Bowers and a right tackle, like that's not what the Patriots need right now. So they would almost have to trade down to 11 and then move back up to get one of those guys that, that Marvin Harrison Jr. or one of the wide receivers or one of the other quarterbacks. And there's no guarantee that they would be able to do that. So I don't know, trading down to 11 seems like a risk, but like I said, current expectation, staying put at 3, drafting the quarterback. I do think the Patriots will give Gerard Mayo a longer leash than the Panthers gave to Frank Reich last season, just because Gerard Mayo is a first-year head coach here. I think he'll get at least like 2 or 3 years at least to prove himself. But yeah, if they take a quarterback there at number 3, Gerard Mayo is tied to that quarterback. Elliott Wolf is tied to that quarterback. Everyone within the organization is tied to that one player. So they have to be really confident that he's going to be the guy.
Frank Reich he got the full season. No, he got only a couple.
8 or 9 games. Yeah,
like 9 games, right? Who lasted longer, Urban Meyer or him?
Probably Urban Meyer.
Holy crap!
Yeah,
that would be a good. Hey, Jeopardy! If you guys are listening, that'd be a good question for you guys. Doug, do you buy all the Jaden Daniel love? It seems like they're saying that the Patriots love him, the Commanders love him, and that the Raiders are in love with him and want to jump up. Are you buying all that talk when it surrounds him?
Yeah, I mean, at least one person I've spoken to who's once again very high up in the organization loves Jaden Daniels. I've talked to another person within the organization who has him as their number 2 quarterback behind Caleb Williams. So right there in line with where the Commanders would be taking him. At the Herald, me and Andrew Callahan, my beat partner, did some deep dives on quarterbacks. I had Jaden Daniels duties, and I mean, I think I'll need to be a little bit more convinced when I see him in the NFL. I think he's a good player. I think he's dynamic with the ball in his hand. He's a great downfield accurate passer on 20+ yard throws. I wasn't sure if I saw a superstar when I was watching him, and his downfield throws were amazing. They really were. Like he's hitting guys in stride. He's throwing the ball perfectly into the deep corner of the end zone. But I had to keep reminding myself that he is throwing to 2 first-round picks at wide receiver with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Like that can't be dismissed, because I was seeing a lot of those same things from Mac Jones back in 2021 when he's throwing to Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle and then it doesn't translate in the NFL. There's a lot more skills for Jaden Daniels to translate in the NFL. But, just because he can be a Heisman Trophy winner in college doesn't mean that he's going to be that impactful in the NFL. It worries me a little bit that it took until his 5th year for him to really break out. He's 2 years older than some of these other quarterbacks in the draft. So there's concerns, but at the same time, people who are very smart are very high on Jaden Daniels, and there's a reason for that. He's got a very unique, intriguing skill set.
Do you feel like, I mean, and that's what Gilbert and that's something I've been pounding the table on with Gilbert, is that some of these quarterbacks, you need to have patience with them. I mean, not everybody gets what Justin Herbert got when he came in, and he gets Keenan Allen and he gets Mike Williams, or other guys that they come into great situations and they have great receivers. Do you feel like right now the message from the Patriots is, okay, if we draft a quarterback, we have to be very patient with him and not throw him in the fire? That's my understanding of why they signed Jacoby Brissett. Mm-hmm. Just, is that kind of what you're hearing and what you think might happen with this organization?
Yeah, they're at least willing to sit whatever rookie quarterback that they wind up with, and to put Jacoby Brissett in there. That's what, Elliott Wolf was saying in his presser last week, that, Jacoby Brissett can support and compete with whatever quarterback, if they bring one in, that they bring in. So personally, I think that, if it's Drake May or JJ McCarthy, quite honestly, sit them for a year. I think that's probably the best thing that they could do, just because There's not a very proven offensive line protecting the quarterback. The Patriots don't even have an X receiver on their roster right now. Like the closest thing to an X receiver is either Keyshawn Boutte or Jalen Reagor. They're just chock full of Z receivers and slot receivers. So, they're probably gonna have to find that player in the draft as well. I mean, at least a month or two, I would sit a rookie quarterback just to make sure that the offensive line is settled, see what the wide receiver core looks like. And yeah, that's why you signed Jacoby Brissett for $8 million, because he can be that bridge quarterback. He could be a good mentor for a rookie quarterback. And yeah, they probably won't win a ton of games with the way the roster is currently constructed with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, but they can at least be slightly better than they were last year, because Brissett is more proven than Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi and the other quarterbacks they had last year.
Doug, have they learned their lesson from the first go around with Mac Jones? I mean, you just mentioned some of the weapons that they have, and I think if we were in a WWE crowd, we'd hear what, who, like, I mean, Devontae Parker, obviously people know, but like, there's other receivers where you're like, who is that? So, do you feel like the Patriots have learned their lesson and they know, hey, you know what? If we're gonna succeed, we have to get good weapons? Because I know they were in on the dude that went to the Tennessee Titans on
Calvin Ridley.
Calvin Ridley. There you go.
Yep.
Sorry, not the gambler. Do you feel like, I mean, they've kind of learned their lesson a little bit when it comes to that?
I think they've learned their lesson a lot of ways at quarterback, but the biggest one is just that the relationship between Bill Belichick and Mac Jones really broke down after year one. And I think that a lot of that, I mean, you can blame both guys, honestly. Like Bill Belichick, not a player's coach, much more of a disciplinarian. Yeah. Mac Jones had his own, had maturity issues. And he's, showing up coaches on the field, and things just really broke down there in year two. I think the other big thing that they can learn from the Mac Jones experience is that Mac Jones had 3 different offensive coordinators in his 3 years with the Patriots. Like, they need to figure that out. And I think that, Alex Van Pelt wasn't the sexiest hire as far as an offensive coordinator goes this offseason, but he's at least a guy that you can depend on who will be able to stick around for a few years. I don't think that Alex Van Pelt is going to be plucked away as a head coach after year 1 or year 2. So there's definitely things that they can learn from that. The big thing, though, definitely is that they need to build the talent around the quarterback. And, ideally, they would like to wind up out of the first 3 rounds of the draft with a quarterback, a wide receiver, an offensive tackle. But the board has to shake out that way. And there's no guarantee if they take an offensive tackle in the 3rd round that guy can be a starter right away. So, I mean, in the early parts of this new era, Gerard Mayo and Elliott Wolf and Kraft and everyone was talking about playoffs. That message has gotten a lot more quiet lately. And I think that that's smart, because you can't set those expectations in year 1 to be making the playoffs. This is probably a team that's going to be competitive in 2025. And that's when you need to have the quarterback ready, have him out there week 1 and to really see what he can do.
So we just real quick, Gilbert, and I'll let you. He said the name. We haven't heard JJ McCarthy's name linked to the Patriots all that much, but you mentioned him. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like that could be the curveball where maybe they do take JJ McCarthy and surprise everybody, and or what are your thoughts, and what have you heard about JJ?
Yeah, there was one report a few weeks ago from, I forgot where, I'm blanking on the name it was like a draft analyst who said that he had spoken to other GMs.
Well, there's a lot.
Yes,
air quotes.
who had heard he had spoken to other GMs who had heard that Elliott Wolf was high on JJ McCarthy. And after that report, I reached out to people that I know around the team, and they said, like, listen, Elliott Wolf is keeping his cards close to the vest. Like, he's not telling us which quarterbacks he likes. And they would have been surprised if he's out there blathering to other GMs about liking JJ McCarthy. So would I be shocked if they took JJ McCarthy at number 3? Like, relatively so, no. But from everyone that I've talked to, dating back to the combine, like, everyone refers to like the top 3 at quarterback, and that being Caleb Williams, Jane Daniels, and Drake May. And that's continued into this week when I've talked to people. I have asked like lower level people, like, hey, what would you do with this pick? And like the response is like, I'd be happy with any of the top 3 quarterbacks. And that's, excluding JJ McCarthy. I think that JJ McCarthy, like, if they trade down, either to number 11 or 6 or wherever it is, like trade down to 11, then move back up. I think JJ McCarthy would be a fine top 10 pick. Like I don't dislike JJ McCarthy. He's really athletic. That's one thing that is kind of a misconception about him. Like people compare him to like Kirk Cousins and Mac Jones. JJ McCarthy is straight up fast when he's running with the ball. He doesn't do it as much as other guys, but he's an athletic quarterback. He can really throw on the move. He's good on off-platform throws, not afraid to throw over the middle. He's got good pocket presence, good footwork in the pocket. Just wasn't used as much as those other quarterbacks. So there's a real projection if you're taking JJ McCarthy with a top 3, top 4 pick, whatever it is. But there's a lot of traits to like about him as well. So I would be surprised if they spent a top 3 pick on JJ McCarthy. Wouldn't be a shock if they spent a top 10 pick on him.
He needs a chill with all the tequila shots. Elliot Wolf at the combine at Prime 47. He needs to chill with that. Go ahead, Gilbert.
Hey, Doug, the Washington hat, because JJ beat that team in the national title game. Any reason why you're rocking the Washington hat?
I grew up in Seattle, so I've been a UW fan for my entire life. So I know all about Michael Penix and Romo Dunze, and I've got a mock draft dropping on Thursday that I've already written up. Maybe I'll make some changes to it, but I'm ready to be clowned on for having 2 UW guys on in the mock draft for the Patriots.
Hey, Dunze and Penix are getting a lot of love in the last week for the draft here, so we'll see if it works out for them.
And then Bill Belichick the other day was wearing UW gear.
Oh, that's right, his son. Yeah,
his son's defensive coordinator. Yeah, I think Steve Bell. As a UW fan, I'm hyped for the Steve Belichick era on defense. Like he did a great job with the Patriots, so it's gonna be fun to see what he can do there.
Yeah, gotta keep an eye on that mullet, man, or the facial expressions. I love that from him. But Doug, let me take you back to free agency, and I was a little surprised that they kept the big 3 in-house guys on Winu, Uche, and Kyle Duggar. Like, I guess just from those signs they're keeping those guys, what does that tell you about what the Patriots want to do? Do they feel like, especially on defense, they have the pieces to make it work? Maybe it didn't work out last year because of injury. I think Christian Gonzalez, Matthew Judon. On Wino was just perfect because he's so versatile. So I'm glad they kept him for their sake. But what did that tell you from keeping those 3 guys?
Yeah, I think that they were happy with the way their defense played last year. Like the offense just kept putting them in disadvantageous situations, and they still finished, I think, top 10 in EPA per play. They were a really stout run defense, weren't quite as good as a pass defense, but a lot of that was, like you mentioned, injuries to Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon there, 2 of the best pass defense players on their roster. Christian Gonzalez is a coverage player, Matthew Judon pass rushing. So I think that the other message that they were sending was just that they want to draft and develop. That's going to be the plan here for the Patriots moving forward. And that's to pay the guys who deserve it. And that was, coming into this year, they kept Hunter Henry, they kept Mike Owenu, they kept Kyle Duggar, Josh Uche signed on in kind of a bargain deal, but kept Anthony Jennings. Like it really was, they wanted the guys that they knew were fits. They wanted to keep the guys that they knew would work, that they know well, rather than like if you're back in 2021 when the Patriots were signing a bunch of outside free agents, like there's just no guarantee that those guys are going to pan out. And about half of them didn't. At least if you're signing your own guys, you know that they're going to work out. There was some gripes in New England, especially among the fan base, of saying like, why are you just re-signing the guys that just led you to a 4-13 record? But like these guys that they're re-signing weren't the problem. They still have a ton of cap space to spend next year. Like I don't think that there was a bad signing that they made in free agency, and it was pretty risk averse so far. So I think that's going to be the plan to draft and develop, and that's certainly what they showed in free agency this offseason.
So I can't let you leave without asking you a couple questions.
I was wondering if you're going to ask about that.
Oh yeah, no, I have to. The report coming out that Robert Kraft kind of, are we going to call it tampering? I mean, he screwed, threw him under the bus. Seth Rollins him with a chair in the back, whatever we want to call it. What did you make of kind of the saga? I mean, we've heard all this, like Julian Edelman's like, it's a joke that Bill Belichick isn't coaching. Also, he was defending him and saying that he didn't like the way he was perceived in the dynasty. Just what have you kind of made of this saga? Because it seems like it's a saga that is going to continue. But what did you make of everything that happened with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick?
I'd say that this offseason has been a little bit of a nightmare for Robert Kraft, just from a, I guess like public relations standpoint, like from moving on from the best head coach arguably in NFL history. And then some of the comments that were made afterwards of all these changes that they're going to make that are going to be better. Then the dynasty coming out, which, at the end has copyright like Kraft, whatever, because the Krafts were giving them so much footage and everything that they had to create this LLC for it. But it certainly created the perception that, the dynasty, the documentary was just Kraft saying what he wanted to. And, he said a lot of negative things about Bill Belichick in that documentary. And now, as you were referencing the report that came out from ESPN, Seth Wickersham, that, perhaps one of the reasons that Bill Belichick did not get a job with the Atlanta Falcons is that Robert Kraft didn't have the greatest things to say about him to Arthur Blank. The Patriots came out and said it wasn't true. So like we have to take that as well. Like Stacey James, the Patriots head of PR, put his name on that, said that, Robert Kraft wasn't disparaging Bill Belichick. So the only people who truly know what Robert Kraft was saying are Robert Kraft and Arthur Blank, based on the comments that Robert Kraft made in the dynasty. I wouldn't be shocked if it was the truth. If that is what Robert Kraft was saying to Arthur Blank. At the same time, the Patriots said that it's not true. So it's tough to know exactly what happened there. But no, I mean, things ended poorly, and maybe it's a vocal minority. Maybe it's a majority of fans. Who knows? We'll find out when the games start, but there's a lot of resentment. There's a lot of negativity towards the Patriots and towards the ownership right now among Patriots fans. And it's really primarily because of the way that they handled Bill Belichick's departure.
Does Bill Belichick ever coach again?
It's so tough. Like
70. That's what I when you jumped on our show and to preview the game, I told you, I'm like, man, he's 1 year younger than Dean Spanos. Like that's up there. And for him to go into a new organization at next year, he's going to be 73 or going into 74. I mean, what's kind of your feeling on that?
I think it would almost have to be the Cowboys, in my opinion, because like, let's say the Cowboys don't win a Super Bowl this season, which I guess would be sort of the expectation or whatever, but like say they're close. maybe you bring on Bill Belichick to close that gap, to get them over the hump, because it has to be a team like that. Like the Falcons were probably right to not hire Bill Belichick, just because it's going to take a little bit of a rebuild for the Falcons. And you just don't know how long Bill Belichick's going to want to coach. As part of that Seth Wickersham report, it said that he's probably only going to want to coach until he gets the all-time wins record over Don Shula. So with the Cowboys, who knows? That could happen in 1 year. Like they could potentially win a Super Bowl in 2025 with Bill Belichick. The other teams that were in that report, it said that you would be interested in coaching the Philadelphia Eagles or the New York Giants. The Giants, I'm just not sure if they're close enough. And once again, with the Eagles, like, yeah, maybe if things go south again this season with Nick Sirianni, they finish even worse than they did in 2023. Like maybe you bring in Bill Belichick as that closer to win a Super Bowl while, the talent is still stacked on your roster and before you have to rebuild. But it really has to be a team like that that's so close, and you're just at your wit's end with their head coach.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm kind of leaning toward, like wondering like if he's gonna come back, if he's not, what's kind of the future. Are you gonna? I mean, I know you're gonna be working and doing your thing, but are you gonna tune in at all for him on the Pat McAfee show on during his draft spectacular?
You almost have to. Like I was talking to Andrew Kelly, my beat partner, about especially after the Patriots make their pick. Like you have to listen to what Bill Belichick's going to say about that guy, because like for us, we're like, that's going to be a note. That's going to be a post, whatever Bill Belichick has to say about their decision, staying put or trading down, whichever player they take, or what he has to say about whatever quarterback it is. Like that's headline worthy stuff still in New England. So I probably won't be tuning in for, I don't know. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of out on some of the draft shows, right? Like some of the broadcasts. So like, I probably would be more interested to hear what Bill Belichick has to say about the 15th player taken overall than some of the other draft shows. So honestly, I probably will watch a lot of it.
And he said he's still watching film like regular. Yeah. He's still doing all that stuff. So Doug, can we ask you two more questions before we let you go? Just
Absolutely.
People are asking questions. Luis wanted to ask you, what would be the most shocking pick, I guess in general?
I guess I'll take this from a Patriots perspective. What the most shocking pick? The most shocking first round pick that they could make would be anything other than a quarterback, wide receiver, or tackle. Like if they're taking any sort of defensive player high up in the draft, if they're trying to find a guard, even a right tackle would be kind of shocking. Just because Michael Wenu can play either guard or right tackle. Like the only left tackle they have on their roster right now was a guy who played right tackle for the Steelers last year, Chuka Okorafor. Like they don't have someone really in that position. So they specifically need X wide receivers, left tackles, and quarterbacks. I wouldn't be shocked if they go off the board in their second round pick, just because I heard that, that's kind of a weird spot where they might have to take the best player available, because if someone that they have a first round grade on drops out of the first round, yeah, maybe they scoop him up at number 34. But in the first round, anything other than a quarterback, wide receiver, or left tackle would be shocking for me.
Last one for us, and Doug, we appreciate you jumping on with us. What are your thoughts on Mike Vrabel, not a former Patriot, Mike Vrabel not coaching, and next year, do you feel like he will come in? He is like a consultant for, I think, Ohio State or something. No, for a team. I can't remember.
I think it's the Browns. Is it the Browns that
Browns? There you go.
With?
Yeah. I forgot about that. That's a random. Yeah. But what are your thoughts on him not coaching? And do you feel like he will be a head coach next offseason?
I'm surprised by it. I mean, he was what I felt like was one of the best head coaches in the NFL. Yeah. It was a weird hiring cycle this year, having Bill Belichick not get hired, having Mike Vrabel not get hired, Pete Carroll still hanging out there. And then, guys like Dave Canales, like, I think he could do a great job this season, but like that seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. Raheem Morris came a little bit more out of nowhere to me, like guys that you might not have expected would be in that first, cycle of head coaches get hired. So I think Vrabel will be back soon. I think that he deserves a head coaching job next year. And he's a guy that has a lot fewer limitations than Bill Belichick has. I think that you could bring him onto almost any team and he would be a good fit there. So yeah, definitely surprised. But sometimes that just happens where guys get left out of the hiring cycle because there's only so many jobs and guys have their preferences and everything, but certainly deserves a job. Great guy. And I think he'll be back very soon.
I love that when they said he's intimidating. Well, yeah, he chokes on the shit out of you through a table. I bet you that's what he wanted to do to the Titans GM when he traded away AJ Brown. So, but Doug and Jorge said it completely. We love you, Doug. Doug, we appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for jumping on with us. Make sure you guys go follow him at Doug Kyed. Awesome. He's a compa. I was telling Gilbert, we were in New York for the Garcia Haney, and I was telling him how we met and everything. And I'm like, yeah, thanks to Rob Gronkowski, we built an amazing friendship. And Doug, he lied to me. I asked him, do you ever get that itch to come back? And he said no. And then that offseason, he signs with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What a guy.
Brutal. I know, right? Well, I'm glad that we met back at the Super Bowl years ago. Fernando, Gilbert, you guys are great. Always a pleasure talking to you guys.
Thank you, Doug. We'll catch up with you right around training camp. Thank you so much.
Yep. Talk to you guys later.